that consignment, before it reached Lexus Bond, under the Bwims, we had already received pre-arrival information that there is a consignment coming destined to Lexus Bond. So whoever is on Bwims, you get pre-arrival information of the consignment destined to your bond, so that you can plan and prepare for it in advance. Because we are very much aware that in the storage of goods, there is planning that goes into that. So the consignment has arrived. We will, and our Commissioner General has just performed a goods arrival function in the system. We are now headed to the weigh bridge, where the consignment will be weighed. As part of our licensing conditions moving forward, we will require that every bonded warehouse, especially a general goods bonded warehouse, will have a weigh bridge, because weight is very critical, especially in the administration process of cargo, for you to compare and see that what you're receiving indeed at second weighing in the bonds is the same weight it had when it was in Mombasa. So that's what the consignment is going to go through. If after going through that process, we will have a goods positioning. In essence, are these goods going to be destined for immediate verification, or are we going to have them first stored in the bond? Under Bwims, we are going to be that organized that we can be able to position the goods for the next course of action. So our dear Commissioner General right now is being taken through the system procedures to perform some of those functions of goods arrival. Then he will also be showed how the goods are positioned. And then he will be taken to the warehouse to see how the goods under Bwims, how we are going to be managing cargo within the bonded warehouse itself, within the stores, because we are going to see a lot of changes. We will expect modern practices such as having shelves where you can be able to locate the goods more easily than the current practices that we've been having. For the motor vehicle bonded warehouse, you will have the parking of the motor vehicle units marked and clearly labeled for someone to easily trace where the unit will be. For the general goods bonded warehouses, we will equally have most of the goods that get in well stacked for ease of traceability when they get into the store. As just being reminded that this function is also being streamed live for some of the colleagues that are not able to join us here physically because of the constraints on the. So on Facebook, you can check out our URA page. On Twitter as well, we are there. We are live streaming for some of our colleagues who may not be here, so you can be able to revert to them so that they can equally follow the proceedings of the bonded warehouse management information system launch. As my predecessor speakers had mentioned, this system was birthed from a need to have better accountability of our cargo in the bonded warehouses. As you know very well, the statistics indicate that close to, actually within the confines of 90% of our declarations go through the bonded warehouses. So in them going through the domestic revenue mobilization strategy, that for us to better manage cargo, we needed a system such as the bonded warehouse management information system. That was 2 years back. The team has been working since then to see that we indeed have this system go live. 2 months back, it went live, and we have had 6 piloting bonds that have experienced the workings through this particular system. And today we thought we needed to launch and spread across the remaining 180 plus bonds that are licensed to manage cargo and account for cargo. So today we are witnessing this momentous occasion when we get to launch this system. As I said, we thought that practically we needed the project owner, who is our Commissioner General, to have an experience of what will be done in our respective bonds. So at the barrier gate right now, he's going through the system processes of arriving goods, arriving that first consignment here under the bonded warehouse management information system. A function for those that have not been piloting bonds, piloting Bwims, you will have obviously very soon. I think you will have the access rights have already been given to the different stakeholders. So you will have this happening in your bonded warehouses as well in not a very long time from now. Thank you again to the bonds that have been piloting this. We truly appreciate for any new changes. It's normally not an easy thing to do. But the 6 bonds that have piloted and championed Bwims, we indeed appreciate, and you're going to be a center for benchmarking for the rest of the teams as well, or the rest of the bonds that are taking on Bwims after the launch. So the process is ongoing. Goods are being arrived at the barrier gate of Yaino for any bonded gate. So that's where we acknowledge receipt of the goods, and we say goods have been arrived to enter into the bonded warehouse. As we can clearly see, our Commissioner General plus some representatives from the bonded warehouse houses who have been piloting, and they have finished the border arrival. They are now moving to where the weigh bridge is, so that they can also be able to start process. They are being showed the weighing of how the goods will be weighed as they get, after getting into the bond. A very critical process, because weight is a key indicator of many things in cargo accountability. For example, when you find that the consignment was 20 ton at Mombasa, and it's arriving in your bond when it is 4-5 tons less than what we read in Mombasa, then the questions start to be asked. Where did the 5 tons go to? Could they have disappeared along the way? So that's why we are emphasizing that for the general goods bonds, it's critical that we have weigh bridges so that we can be able to resolutely count for cargo as it comes into our bonds. Because then when you find any weight discrepancy, it gives us a chance to go back and revisit the movings of this consignment right from Mombasa through our land borders to the bonded warehouse. You are aware that we track cargo right from Mombasa to the bonded warehouses, so we can easily trace what could have happened along the way and be able to manage this entire process better. So that's why it's critical that we weigh at the point of entry of goods within your respective bonded warehouses. And that is the process that our Commissioner General and representatives from the pilot bonds are appreciating right now, as you can see on the screens. So after we have gone through the weighing process, the goods will definitely be positioned for the next course of action, because in the warehouse, as you know, we support quite a number of processes. We support the process of the goods being warehoused, actually, where you have at least a period of 6 months. We support the process of the different processes of verification at owners for some of this cargo that is bulky, and the nature of it may not be easily supported in terms of verifying it at the bond itself. So we support processes of re-export. So in essence, after the consignment is weighed, we will have a positioning order made, and this will indicate what is the next course of action for the goods. Are they going to be put in the store? Are they going to be verified? Are they going to be put in the export section? Are they going... So Bwims is going to support all that. So as we can see, the truck is getting onto the weigh bridge to have the weights taken, and these weights will be compared with the weights at the point of entrance in Mombasa, for us to clearly account that indeed the cargo we are receiving in terms of weight is the same cargo that we received at the point of entrance, that is in Mombasa. Under the East African Community, we have the single customs territory, which provides for that our first border, our borders extend up to the port. And that's why we can seize for goods that are not warehoused. For the goods, some of the processes are supported for you to be able to pay taxes. For us to be able to pay taxes even at the point of entry, which is Mombasa. But now for this that has come for warehousing, we are receiving it, the weights are being taken. The weights are being taken. After the weights are taken, depending on whether the goods are going to be verified immediately or goods are going to go to the store, we are going to see our principals probably have a site of the next process. So the weights have been taken, and I believe there has been a clear reconciliation between the weight in Mombasa and the weight being taken currently at Lexus Bond. So then the container will be mounted off the truck for a positioning, either for verification, that would mean we go to the verification bay, or for offloading into the warehouse. So we'll see that process. We won't obviously go through the details of verification given the number of hours it takes, but we will at least have clear visibility of what is changing, especially when the goods are within the warehousing. Right now the container is being mounted off for a positioning. And so what is changing majorly is that the involvement of the different stakeholders within all these processes. Right from when the goods are arrived, we have put roles in this system. You will have the bonded warehouse manager performing a number of functions. You will have the agents equally performing a number of functions within this system. And all these stakeholders in the ecosystem have been included so that we can have clear accountability across the board from the different stakeholders within the ecosystem of the warehouse. So the container has been put off to be positioned. Now what also is changing is that we are going to have, actually not changing, it's been there before, but we are going to expect clear demarcation for our goods and the containers. For the empty containers, would expect they are clearly marked for purposes of accountability. For the containers that are due for export, that there is a separate section where they are kept. The same for the imported containers. They will have to be clearly demarcated. So that's one of the other things that in your new in the licensing requirements for this year, we are going to see the inspectors very keen on that, because we want that anyone, even if it's your first day on the job as a bonded warehouse keeper, you can clearly identify your cargo and know where to find it within the bonded warehouse. So we are hoping indeed that with this system, all the gaps that we've experienced in the past with regard to our cargo accountability will be history. So we are seeing a second drive-through by the truck. This time we've gotten the weight of the container with the truck. Now I believe we want to assess the net weight of the container itself. So we are going to such detail. When we understand the gross weight of the container and the truck, then we can be able to have simple mathematics for us to arrive at the net weight of the container. And that's what exactly we are trying to do. I believe with this, we will close most of the gaps that we've been struggling with in the past. Over the last week, some of us have been struggling with audit queries because of some of the gaps that Bwims is going to close. So even this will also ease accountability for us as stakeholders in this ecosystem in terms of identifying our goods. I noticed that many times when we ask for our current stock positions, that's when you find that we are struggling to identify which stock we are with, which one went out. But all this, I believe, is going to be history, because some of the processes are very meticulous, especially you tally in, then you also tally out whatever you brought in. And these accounts are not just limited to the customs officials. They also extend to the agent, to the bonded warehouse keeper. So in essence, we are going the extra mile to ensure that we can account for cargo within our stores. And I believe this is a very good thing for us, where it's clearly tarmacked and we can easily be able to have ease of movement of the consignment when it comes in. So from what I see, the Commissioner General and the team are going to visit one of the stores so that we can also appreciate what happens within the stores. I'd like to credit our hosts, Lexus Bond, for embracing some of the modern storage practices. I believe we may be at the tail end of this particular launch. For some of you who have not seen how they handle the storage, you could easily have a chance to have also a quick walkthrough. We from our engagements with them, we've noticed indeed they embrace the modern practices of shelving, where you have the shelves in the different levels in terms of storage, plus the matching stackards for all the goods. And I think this makes work very easy for them in terms of accounting for cargo. And this is the standard that we are going to embrace with Bwims, because the system in itself is not the silver bullet. The system is an enabler. It's an enabler that has to be supported by matching processes, which we've already worked on, by matching infrastructure, such as the way bridges that we are talking about, the modern shelves that we should be having within our stores. And I believe that Lexus has displayed that, and other bonds, I believe, that are here are displaying that. And we are going to walk this journey together to make sure that we indeed improve the accountability for our cargo currently. The interesting thing with Bwims, we will even have our loaders attached within the system, because the loaders perform a key function of loading and offloading the goods. So we need to be able to identify them. And through this system, we'll be able to clearly identify who is dealing with this process of offloading and loading of goods, so that we can trace, in case there is anything that happens, we can be able to trace. On top of all the other best practices for which you're licensed for, such as having the CCTV cameras, such as so that we can have visibility of the goods as they are in the bonded warehouses. So all these practices really are an effort for us to better account for our cargo. And I need to mention that indeed we are launching the bonded warehouse management information system. As we roll out this, we will have a team that will be ready to support us. I know the trainings have already been conducted. The trainings, the readiness assessment, most of our teams have reached your bonds already and they have been engaging with you. So most of the necessary steps for us to take off have been achieved. And the next step is really to go live in our bonds and start using the system as for those bonds that were not in the pilot bonds. As we know very well that for any new initiative, normally it's welcomed, especially for the ICT initiatives. Normally, before you begin, you look at, most of the times in our experience, it's perceived it's perceived most times as obviously a change from what we are doing. But as to whether we perceive it as a change for the better, I think is where we really need to look into very closely. And this is to encourage us to give it the support, to give this Bwims the support that it deserves, because it's a good initiative that is going to help us entirely account for cargo better. I know there are stakeholders who already have systems that are not just local but regional and international. A phase is going to come in which we will provide for options to interface and integrate with the bonded warehouse management information system. So in essence, we are trying to cover all the options that are available in our partnership with you, especially from a systems integration front. For the bonded warehouses that entirely maybe don't have an operational IT system, Bwims will serve as that principal system. Bwims was scoped and mapped against many of your systems. We borrowed a number of concepts from all the systems that you run. So from a general point of speaking, you'll find that the coverage in terms of scope for the functions that one has to perform within the bonded warehouse to manage